You're welcome. After the Kano State Governorship Election Tribunal's sack of the Kano State Governor, Abba Yusuf, on Wednesday, the party has stated it won't leave without a fight as it's set to approach the higher courts of law for an appeal. The governorship candidate of the All Progressives Congress, Nasir Gawuna, was declared as the rightful winner of the election. The NNPP was alleged to have emerged as a result of what the tribunal called overvoting. Well, the decision of the three-man panel of the tribunal has set political fireworks, not just in Kano State, but across the country, as commentaries keep coming in about the situation in one of the most politically volatile states in the country. The NNPP, which is currently divided along its membership, along factions, has said it will seek redress soon in its search for a return to the government house in Kano. Tonight, we're joined by Dipo Olayokun of the NNPP. He is the national secretary of that party. Dipo Olayokun, good evening to you. All right, and later we'll be having another official of the party join us as well. Let's start with you, Dipo. The Kano State Election Petitions Tribunal, of course, we know, has declared the APC candidate Nasir Gawuna the winner of that election that held on March 18, the governorship poll. We've seen the reaction of the party. You say you're appealing, but I want you to tell me your reaction and the reaction of the party from the horse's own mouth as far as that decision is concerned.
Yeah, thank you very much. The party has made its stance known, and whatever expression, whatever I'm going to say today is going to be to express the mind of the party. Yesterday, the party issued a press release rejecting the judgment but respecting the judiciary. Yesterday evening, the governor, Engineer Abba Yusuf, addressed a press conference where he also rejected the judgment. And today, the National Working Committee of the party held a press conference to elaborate more on the position of the party and why we are having that view. So whatever I'm going to say is the view of the party based on what the party has been saying since yesterday. Let this be on record. We respect the judiciary, we respect the judgment, but we rejected the judgment. As a law-abiding party, we believe so much in constitutionalism and the rule of law and following what is legal in whatever we want to do. We believe so much in the entity called Nigeria and also Kano State that we hold dearly because it's a party, it's a state that has been governed by the national leader of this party, His Excellency, Senator Abba Yusuf, as a governor for 2 terms. And he left his mark there. Unfortunately, his legacies seem to have been rubbish in the past 8 years. And the people of Kano were yearning for a return of something that would look like Senator Kwakwaso's legacy. And he got that in Engineer Abba Yusuf. The past 100 days, he has demonstrated this. But unfortunately, some people that always feed fat on the people or on the masses want to continue what they started 8 years ago. Like a party, we have appealed to our followers, genuine followers in Kano State and across the country to remain calm because we believe so much in peace and tranquility. Even at the worst of provocation in the last election, which was like a total war. For example, on the day of the election, a sitting member of the House of Representatives led some hoodlums to our secretariat in Kano, burnt down the whole building and members of the party that were in that house. We did not raise any finger. What we did was to appeal to security agencies, to law enforcement agencies, to do something, and we went to court. Though the matter was about to be truncated. So just to let you know that as a party, we believe so much in constitutionalism and rule of law. Now back to the judgment. It's like our press release yesterday, it's very laughable because this judgment runs counter what is clearly stated in Section 63, Subsection 2 of the Electoral Act of 2022. And that's where we are thinking our confidence in the judiciary that definitely we are going to the appeal court to get a redress, not only because of our party, but to put action into the letters of the Constitution or into the letters of the Electoral Act, which is very, very clear on the issue of the ground on which the election of our governor, Engineer Abba Yusuf, was nullified, that it is unknown to law and it is a travesty of justice. We can only do
Mr. Olayokun, sorry to interject here, but permit to ask you, would it be fair or would it be right, is it even legal to address the NNPP candidate as governor? Bearing in mind the tribunal ordered the withdrawal of certificate of return from Abba Yusuf. That's the order, and the issuance of the certificate of return to Nasir Gawuna. And I know that your party is yet to file for any stay of execution of any sort. It's just, 24 hours. So would it be right, legally speaking, you're the secretary of the party, to call Abba Yusuf the governor, use that term on him? And how does the party,
the law is very clear. When the first court, the court of first instance, in this matter, the High Court, gives ruling on the issue of, that is the tribunal, on the issue of election petition, there is a window of appeal to the Court of Appeal, and whoever is not satisfied can as well go to the highest court in the land, as Supreme Court. But in the interim, while these matters are pending either at the Court of Appeal or at the level of, okay, I want to appeal, it is mandatory that all actions in enforcing the judgment will have to be put on hold. And that is why the governor made it very clear yesterday that the people of Kano should not entertain any fear. They should not go into any panic mode, so to speak, and that as long as he has appealed or he's going to appeal, he remains the governor of Kano State. So there's no cause for any panic mode or for any anxiety among our members. And it is very, very germane that he came out as the chief security officer of the state to assure the people of Kano that they shouldn't go into any panic mode. We are still in charge, and he said he's going ready to pursue the matter to a logical conclusion. Because this is a mandate freely given to him by the people of Kano.
Okay.
Unfortunately, maybe there is need for us to step backward and look at. Hello?
Yes. I was just about to, let's look at what the court did, because I want your thoughts particularly on that. But we roll some infographics here so we can show you just the figures and the numbers. Don't forget the two individuals concerned. We have Yusuf Abakari of an NNPP and Gawuna Nasir Yusuf of the APC. You can see that at the end of the election, the results declared by the Independent National Electoral Commission gave 1,019,602 votes to Yusuf Abakari of the NNPP, New Nigeria People's Party, and 890,705 votes to Gawuna Nasir Yusuf of the All Progressives Congress. Now, after the tribunal judgment, where 165,663 votes were deducted from the polling units in question where those ballots were not signed and stamped, you have Abba Yusuf having 853,939 votes, and Gawuna Nasir Yusuf of the APC now having 890,705 votes. And I want to ask you, Mr. Dipo Olayokun, we can see from our screen that the APC's candidates' votes remain the same, while your candidate, your party's candidate, the governor, whose certificate of return is to be collected from him, I don't know who will be the governor in the meantime, his votes have been chopped off. The question some are asking in town is it that the APC candidate didn't have any votes in any of those polling units?
According to the judgment, though we have not seen the certified true copy, But based on what was reported, because we have some of our lawyers in court, we have our members of the party in court yesterday to witness what really happened, though the members of the tribunal were not in court. The judgment was delivered via Zoom. But they took down some notes, and according to what they fed us, they said about 165,633 votes were deducted from the legitimate votes of our governor. And according to the tribunal, they said this is because the ballot papers did not carry some trademark like the stamp and signature. And the question we are asking is, these 165,633 votes, which they removed from our governor's tally, you ask yourself, the total number of votes, that is including our own and that of APC and the other parties, did they overshoot the number of accredited voters? That is the Dipo. Because we are talking about overvoting. Overvoting simply means that the total number of votes is more than the accredited voters. But if you are now punishing NNPP for the inadequacies of INEC, that is why those who drafted the Electoral Act, maybe they appreciate this kind of a situation. That is why if you go to section 63, subsection 2, it is very, very clear on the ballot papers that were not marked. It is not the fault of NNPP. We were in the opposition. There was no way we could have smuggled in ballot paper because we didn't even know the color of the ballot papers we were going to use for that election. So that it was impossible for us to have printed ballot papers. And the Electoral Act in section 63, subsection 2 says, if the returning officer is satisfied that a ballot paper which does not bear the official mark was from a book of ballot papers which was furnished to the presiding officer of the polling unit, in which the vote was cast for use at the election in question, he or she shall, underline the word shall, notwithstanding the absence of the official mark, count that ballot paper. And maybe that was why the returning officer counted those ballot papers, because it could have been an oversight on the part of INEC. Now must you punish NNPP for the inadequacies of INEC? That is why those who drafted the Constitution, the Electoral Act, say this, and which they made provision for it, section 63. But if the tribunal, in their wisdom, decided to remove 165,633, I know the higher courts have given ruling on this type of situation. And by the time we get to appeal court, I think they will be able to interpret the law very clearly. But it is very, very clear what the drafters of the Constitution's Electoral Act really envisaged. So if you are now removing 165, the question people are asking is, are you saying deliberately INEC gave us ballot papers that were not marked? Those are the questions that were. Is it possible or is it right for any election petition tribunal to begin to deduct and subtract?
Okay, very interesting point you've raised, Mr. Dipo Olayokun. So in order to rephrase my question then, seeing that the ballot papers were taken one by one, I would like to know if those ballot papers were taken to court and inspected by the court, if you are aware of that. But also, the question then would be, if there was an issue with the ballot papers, how come it's affecting only the ballot papers that were that contain votes for the NNPP? Is it that the NNPP smuggled in ballot papers to the polling units, or is it that INEC had made a mistake, but that mistake happened only to affect people who were voting for the NNPP?
You see, that is where the issue of overvoting should have been properly explained. The simple meaning of overvoting is when you have more votes than the accredited voters. That is the meaning of overvoting. And if it has happened, they would have cancelled that polling unit entirely, or polling units. But this one did not happen. Overvoting, according to the interpretation of this judgment, is because, according to them, some ballot papers of 165,000, which were votes cast for the NNPP, did not carry the mark. And that is why that's why we are now mentioning section 63, subsection 2 of the Electoral Act. You cannot blame us. NNPP did not print ballot papers. Because if we had printed ballot papers, that means we would have stuffed ballot boxes with those ballot papers, which would have made the number of votes to have superseded or overshoot the accredited voters. But nobody mentioned that in the judgment. So that is why we said there's no cause for alarm. We are not in any panic mood. We respect the judgment as we say. That is the extent to which the tribunal members can see it. But we believe when we get to a higher court, these things will be properly outlined. There have been precedents.
Okay.
That's why the issue of Osun State is still very, very germane. It's still very fresh in our memory. It was just a little, some few days before the handover that the Osun State happened. What we are saying in essence is that NNPP did not print ballot papers. NNPP did not stock ballot boxes to the ballot paper. That is why we did not have a case of the number of votes being more than the accredited voters. So there is no cause for alarm. And that is why we continue
that was what I was about to ask you, Mr. Dipo Olayokun, that if it's a case of, and you've just stated it right there, if it's a case of overvoting, it will therefore mean that the number of registered voters either in that polling unit are less than those who voted, or the number of those who voted are more than those who were accredited. But you are saying in this case, there's no difference or disparity between those accredited via the BVAS biometrically, and those who voted. So there's no disparity. It's exactly how it ought to be. But so therefore, I think we're looking at a case of voided votes based on the signature and the markings, which raises the question again: what happened to those who voted for the All Progressives Congress? But let's move on. Initially, INEC declared Governor Yusuf as winner with a margin of 128,897 votes. Now, would you have wanted to see, or would you have loved to see the tribunal order for a rerun instead, or a fresh election?
Yes. Lawyers have been commenting on this kind of situation. When you have a situation like this, what are the options before the tribunal? And lawyers have said the best option would have been to call for a rerun between the front two leaders, the leading parties. As a matter of fact, even some few moments before they made their final pronouncement, reports were all over the place that, the tribunal was going to call for a rerun involving NNPP and APC. But if in their own wisdom they have said to give it to APC, no qualms. That is why the Electoral Act has made provision for an appeal to a higher court. But there is one thing I want Nigerians to look at it properly. In the last general election, 2023 general election, there were 5 polls. You have the presidential election, you have the senatorial election, you have the House of Reps election, you have the House of Assembly election, and the governorship election. The last two took place on the same day. Though it's because of violence visited on the people of Kano, some areas we had inconclusive elections about 14 local governments. So in the case of House of Assembly, some elections were held about 2 weeks later. Now let us go to the elections proper. In the presidential election in Kano State, the candidate of NNPP, Senator Rabi Musakwa Kwaso, PHQ FNSE, defeated the current president in Kano State in the election that took place on the 25th of February. On that same day, we had 2 other elections, the senatorial election and House of Reps. Out of the 3 seats in Kano, NNPP won 2, leaving 1 for APC. For House of Representatives, NNPP has 18, leaving about 6 for APC in the same election. Now, let us go forward, fast forward, to the governorship election and House of Assembly. As we speak today, NNPP has majority, clear majority in the Kano State House of Assembly. We are the owner of the Speaker and the principal officers. So you now ask yourself, how come that in the same election, 4 elections, we defeated them? It's only the governorship election that all of a sudden, due to what some people call judicial gymnastics, APC wants to claim victory. We are not fighting them. But what we know is that it's not possible for you to hide behind one figure.
Well, it could be argued, Dipo Olayokun, that that pattern played out in different parts of the country. For instance, in Lagos State, Bola Tinubu's backyard, he lost the presidential vote to the Labour Party. But when it came around to the governorship election, which wasn't on the same day, the APC candidate, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, won. So there is some precedence. There are some similarities around the country.
In the case of Lagos State, APC has the 3 senators and almost all the House of Reps. In the case of Lagos State, APC has, if not all, the House of Assembly elections. But in the case of Kano, we won the presidency, we won the senatorial election, we won the House of Representatives election, we won the House of Assembly election. How come that it's only governorship that they are now introducing gymnastics? They are clear different cases, my dear brother.
But they were held on different days. They were held on different days. What if the APC went back, re-strategized, and came out differently?
In the case of House of Rep and Senatorial, the elections were held the same day. In the case of Lagos State, just like any other part of state in Nigeria, the governorship and the House of Assembly were held the same day. And in Kano, the same election held the same day, governorship and House of Assembly, and we won. The presidential, House of Rep, senatorial held the same day, we won. So it is simple mathematics.
Okay, so you're talking about the state legislative elections being the House of Assembly, but let's move forward. What is the NNPP possibly going to say, at the Court of Appeal, which is the next court, to go to? I think that's the final. No, that's not the final, but so we can go all the way to the Supreme Court for governorship elections. So, what will the NNPP be saying at the next stage? When they go for appeal, to possibly turn the tide?
Yeah, like I said, when we lay our hands on the certified true copy, we will study the judgment in its entirety. But from the snippet that we have had, if they are removing the votes because of what they said, the ballot papers were not marked, Section 63, subsection 2 has taken care of that completely. We did not print any ballot paper. If INEC, out of their own inadequacy, the official did not remember to stamp, because it has become a criminal matter. Did NNPP stop ballot papers by the ballot boxes? They have to establish that. These ballot papers, are they different from the booklets that were used on the day of election? The question will have to be answered. But Section 63 has said that because a ballot paper does not carry the mark of INEC like the stamp, does not invalidate that vote. That vote. It is very, very clear. And that is why, for as long as the returning officer has counted, and they didn't record any aspect of overvoting at the polling unit, then they have to tell us the meaning of overvoting. So those are the areas we are going to hing our hope on and our appeal on. These votes that were removed, the totality of all the votes for that day, did they surpass the number of accredited voters? That is when you can establish overvoting. So our case is very, very clear. And that is why we continue to tell our members, our followers, please, there's no cause for alarm. There's no need to go into any panic mode. It is very, very clear. We are going to hinge our argument on the law. The Electoral Act of 2022 was enacted to guide the activities of not only INEC, but every other political party. And if the thing says, because there is such human error, that's why they said that this thing is not there, does not invalidate ballot paper. So, as simple as APC, the job is cut out for us, very clear, and that is why we are appealing to our members.
All right, you're even lucky, Mr. Dio, Mr. Dipo, or you're even lucky, Dipo Olayokun, you're even lucky that you had about 800,000 votes, because if you look at the APC's petition, they were saying to the court that Abba Yusuf scored only 178,374 votes. That's what they said, to the court. So you're even lucky that you had the court graciously granted you more than that 178,374 votes. But what are your thoughts on the fact that this judgment was transmitted virtually via Zoom and that the panel members were not physically in court?
Yeah. The question you ask is it against the law to deliver their ruling through the Zoom? I don't think anything is against the law. But that's why one of our members says in the press conference that they are the guilty running when nobody is pursuing them. And then you look at the activities that preceding the day of election. There were allegations of some people trying to snatch Kano by all means, because to them, Kano is strategic for 2027 elections. So they claim that the atmosphere in Kano was not conducive for them to go to Kano to render or to read the judgment. It is very, very unfortunate. And then look at what happened afterwards, that you have to restrict the movement of the people for a whole 24 hours because you have read a judgment. You know the circumstances under which Nigerians are living now. To now restrict them in their homes for whole 24 hours, that means for today, they were not able to go out to pursue their daily bread when already they are living under a very precarious situation. You can imagine what the action has caused the people of Kano. We are appealing to people of Kano, please bear with us, bear with them. By the time we retrieve, our mandate is going nowhere. We are going to retrieve it. Whatever suffering or injustices they think they perceive now, let them bear it for a while. But a government that is transparent, that does believe is doing things properly, cannot be subjecting its people to this kind of situation.
All right.
You have deprived them of their voice. You have deprived them of their mandate. You are now depriving them of their freedom of movement, freedom of expression, freedom to go and pursue their daily bread. It is very, very unfortunate.
Okay.
Thank God they said 24 hours. We only hope they will not extend the curfew by another 24 hours because our Nigerian people are really under a heavy burden imposed on them by this government called the APC government. It is very, very unfortunate.
Well, the police, in their defense, will say that the reason for the curfew is to save life and property, because we all know what happened when the results of that election were announced in March. There was some sort of a violence. But we hope that there is peace in Kano State, a very important state as far as Nigeria is concerned. Thank you very much for your time, Dipo. Olayokun.
It's always a pleasure. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you very much. We'll get back to you certainly as the story develops. He's the National Secretary of the embattled New Nigeria People's Party. We'll keep our eyes on Kano State, but let's take a quick break. When we return, our second conversation.